Welcome to Bow Ties Are Sometimes Cool. Myself, Ashley, and Ed. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Ash. Nice to be on in the morning for a change, but there's a great reason for that.
Absolutely. Well, it is our morning, but for our guest, it is his evening. So today's special guest used to be in my living room 5 days a week for 5 years. Bit awkward. You had to ask him to leave in the end, to be honest. Yes, I got a laugh. Thank goodness. There'll be no one who watched TV in the late 80s or early 90s who doesn't know this man. We are joined by television royalty known to many of us as Summer Bay's Adam Cameron. I'm delighted to introduce Mat Stevenson. Good morning, Matt. Or good evening, I should say.
Well, good morning to you guys. Thanks for having me, Ash and Edward. It's a pleasure to be here chatting with you guys.
Thank you ever so much for joining us. So we're going to go straight into questions, I think, because time is precious for you there, and we're really, really grateful that you've taken any time out to speak to us. So, Home and Away and Neighbours, you were involved with both of them. Obviously, you're Home and Away for many people, Adam Cameron, classic character. But you were in a few other things before that as well, and obviously subsequently. Was acting something you always wanted to do?
Yeah, absolutely. From the age of 5, I remember watching a TV show and they were doing an expose on schools that kids could go to, art schools, not only to do the normal scholastic subjects, but performing arts. So from that moment, it wasn't really pretentious. It was just kind of like, this sounds cheesy, but a sense of knowing. So from the age of 5, I was obsessed about acting. I used to watch all the shows. I used to know all the actors. And from the age of 8, I used to ride my push bike a couple of hours, pack a lunch and sit out the front of Channel 10, which is the network that shoots Prisoner or shot Prisoner and Neighbours. And I just used to dream about being on the set of one of their shows. So, yeah, it's fair to say I was obsessed from an early age.
So going back to, or touching upon Neighbours, which was one of the first things we would have seen over here, you had a role called Skinner in there, I believe, alongside Christian Smith. So Neighbours is massive here in the UK. I don't know how it was perceived over there. I'm guessing it was a big soap over there as well. So you must have felt that you'd obviously hit the big time. What was your Neighbours experience like?
Yeah, Neighbours was fantastic. I think it was my fourth professional job. I'll take you back to when I was 15. I auditioned for a lead role in a tally movie called Breaking Up. The ABC came to my school to audition for that role, and I went along at lunchtime and did a small test, and I was invited down to the ABC to test further. And I won that role, and it was about a family breaking up, and it was seen through my character's eyes. I was in every scene. And that gained a fair bit of success. It won a few awards. So from there, the following year, because I'm still in school now, my last year of school, I was offered a role in a miniseries called My Brother Tom, and the great late Gordon Jackson, who you guys would know really well. Gordon was in My Brother Tom, and my favourite film was The Great Escape, and he was also in The Great Escape. Steve McQueen was my favourite actor. So I was just starstruck as a 16-year-old kid listening to Gordon, who was the world's most wonderful man, talk about Steve McQueen and Charles Bronson and all those wonderful actors that were in The Great Escape. So I did that in my HSC year, and then I won a lead role in a mini-series called Dusty, straight out of school. And that was filmed on location for about 9 months. And after Dusty, I won my role on Neighbours as Skinner. And I was really obsessed with Neighbours, Guy Pearce, Jason Donovan, Craig McLaughlin, Kylie Minogue, all of them. Being obsessed about acting, that was one show that I really wanted to be in. So it was a really good moment for me. I won the role playing Skinner. He was a bad boy. He ended up kidnapping Christian Smith's character. And then I think I went to jail, and Ian Smith, who plays Harold, was also writing for the show, and he loved my character, so he wrote me back in for another 3 months. And Skinner came back, and I think I may have assaulted a couple of the girls. One of them was Rachel Friend, who played Bronwyn, I think.
Yeah, Bronwyn, yeah.
Yeah, so there was talk about me being on Neighbours full time, but the associate producer of Neighbours moved to Sydney to become the series producer of Home and Away. and he basically headhunted me for the role of Adam Cameron. So, I ended up moving to Sydney to play the role of Adam when I think I was about 20 years of age. So that was, again, Home and Away was just an awesome show. And, I was here's a couple of really uninteresting trivia stats for you. I was the first full-time actor to come onto Home and Away after it had started. So Alex Paps left the show, and because they're so formulated, these soaps, you've got to replace like for like in terms of age and demographics. So Alex left and I came in. And I believe I was actually on, in the UK, Neighbours and Home and Away at the same time. So I think I was the first actor to be on both the shows in the UK at the same time. Now, I told you they were really useless trivia bits, and they are. I mean, I'm glad you guys can make it through the day today knowing those statistics, but there you go.
I love my trivia. I absolutely love my trivia. Ed will back me up on that one.
You absolutely love your facts, Ash. Yes, definitely.
Well, yeah, because I was looking into this because I was doing my research, and not that this is an audio only thing anyway, but I'll hold this up to the camera. But I literally, obviously, I thought I can't just talk about Home and Away, although I could quite happily talk about it all day. So I've got literally everything that you've done. Yeah, so I was like, oh yeah, that Breaking Up, yeah, good. My brother Tom of going through the list here. To be fair to you, if you look at your IMDb, with the exception of Home and Away and Neighbours, which I think has got mixed reviews just because so many people watched it, everything that you've done has been really very highly rated. So, and that's because you're in it. But where was I going with that conversation? Oh yeah, trivia. Yes. So when I was looking into when your episodes were, the broadcast dates, I think for Neighbours was quite a bit later here in the UK. Yeah, so you would have been probably on the TV on both soaps simultaneously, just because of how delayed we were here. But I'm just going to share my screen with you now, Matt, if that's okay. I'm going to take you down a little bit down memory lane here with a couple of things that you just discussed. So let's share sound. Can you see that, guys?
I can see it wants to. Yep, I've got it. Yep. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay. So first and foremost, let's just take you down this memory lane of Skinner.
Good game.
Well, look who's here. You got a death wish, Landers.
Look, I just came to tell you what happened. You know, about the cops and stuff.
What's to tell? You dobbed on me, mate.
Yeah, okay, I dobbed on you. What else did you expect me to do? Just shut up and let Nick wear it all. Look, he's a real good mate of mine.
I thought I was a real good mate too.
You are, that's why I'm here. It's just Nick's sort of family.
That'd be right. You and your precious family. I'm surprised they're not down here looking for you. Well, don't they know little Toddy what he's run off to play pennies with the big boys?
I'll be honest, Matt, you're a bit of a nasty piece of work there, really, aren't you? To be fair. Now look at this bit. I just want to show you this bit. I'm sorry but I just love this here because this is when you get caught.
What are you around? Yeah, Nick got him.
It's teamwork. Come on, mate, you can't let me go. I didn't take anything.
The only reason you didn't is because I arrived back in time. Now, if you think you can invade my home and scare little girls, then you can think again.
Well, can't you give us a break? Geez, I haven't had many.
Well, that doesn't excuse a thing.
Geez, it's a battle of the mullets there between me and Mark Stevens, isn't it? That's
yeah,
that is a trip down memory lane. For those who are listening to this, yeah, I can just see Mark on my screens now. So I'll tell you a funny story. Mark, a wonderful bloke, and I think he lives in your neck of the woods now. I think he's a practicing pastor. But Nick and I had a fight scene, and because we were young and full of testosterone and passionate about the craft. We, instead of choreographing the fight scene, I said to him, look, you hit me in the face. I can take it. We're young. And then I'll hit you back in the face and it'll look really good. So anyway, the director says action and he hits me and really collects me on the cheek. And then I go to whack him back and I miss him. And then after the scene, he just laughs. So it looked really good, but there's some of the silly things you do when you're young, I guess. But wonderful bloke, Mark. Wonderful bloke.
Absolutely. So we're going to just show you two other clips really quickly, if I may.
Absolutely.
This here, looking at Chris. So it's you and Christian Smith on Noel's house party. And this is a vote to see who's going to go into the gunge tank, the representative of Neighbours or Home and Away. And I wonder how you fared on this one, Matt.
Safe competition. Is it going to be home and away, or is it going to be Neighbours? Oh, cheer up, chaps. Take it on the chin. Let's see exactly whether it is going to be Matt or whether it's going to be Christian. Can we have the voting, please? And I can't see how it's gone. Yes, Christian. Christian just ahead with 64. So, sorry about this. Sorry, you'll have to go.
I want to go in as well.
Oh, all right. Then.
Well, there we go, you see. Oh, that was nice of you jumping in last minute.
That's a bit of teamwork there. There's a teamwork. Where we go one, we go all. There you go.
Absolutely. And then the last
I
thing
do remember that.
Sorry, go. Yeah, I was going to say, great to see you all there on Noel's house party. I mean, the thing was, whether it be Saturday night TV or Saturday morning TV, home and away it just seemed to be everywhere. Fantastic.
Massive, yeah. No, it was massive, and yeah, I mean, it was such a privilege to work on those shows, because one of the greatest things about you're working on a high-profile international show is your ability to be able to put a smile on people's faces, particularly children, and it's just a privilege, just a privilege. So I'll never forget that stuff. It was awesome.
So I've got one more clip I'd like to show you, if I may. I don't know how familiar you are with these guys, but we've got Gary Barlow. He's a singer-songwriter and part of Take That. And Peter Kay in this clip here. Peter Kay's a comedian. And Gary Barlow did a show a few years ago, and Peter Kay just joined him on the stage just to do a little segment of it. And in this, they were singing theme tunes. And I think this is kind of a testament and shows actually how much the UK loves Home and Away, because, obviously totally unprompted. The audience didn't know what was going to happen, and yet they were able to sing along word for word. So they actually go wild. Well, actually, maybe that's a bit dramatic. They get excited.
We're going to sing some songs now, all about television. A little bit of a tribute to the old box in the corner, or whatever her name is. Anyway, let's start with a bit of a romantic one. You might remember this. So when you came home from school, had your tea. You what? Just calm down, will you? Here we go. Nice little gentle one now. See if you can sing along. Come on. You know we belong together. You and I forever and ever. No matter where you are, you're my guiding star.
Yeah, wow.
From the very first moment I saw you, I never felt such emotion. I'm walking on air, just to know you are there. Hold me in your arms, don't let me go. I want to stay forever, closer each day. Home and away. There's action. Oh, let me be the one that you turn to, someone you can rely on, closer each day. Home and away.
There you go. What can I say? No, everyone in the audience singing. Home and Away is a massive part of people's lives here.
Look, it was never lost on me. I had the privilege of doing 2 pantomimes in your country, one in Leicester and one in Barnsley. And, so I got to experience firsthand how much, Home and Away and Neighbours means to you guys. And, I was just humbled by the reaction. It was, truly heartwarming.
So, Matt, we've just heard Peter Kay singing probably to an audience of 10, 12,000, the theme tune of Home and Away. And he said it was on when you had your tea, which, going home after school, etc. But when Neighbours first came out in the UK, it was on at 1:30 in the afternoon. And the powers that be saw that kids were actually bunking off school just to watch Neighbours, because obviously not everyone had a VCR back then. There was no, downloads or anything. So they actually put it on tea time as well. So it was on almost just after. You'd have Home and Away, then you'd have Neighbours on, Were you aware of first of all, the cultural impact that your shows were having, not just on Australia, but on the whole world? And the second part of the question is, were you aware that sort of how your shows had made Australia the sort of cool place for young people to want to be? Because it was always America, but your shows had done so much to put Australia on the map as a place that young people wanted to go.
Yeah, really good questions, Ed. And to answer the first part, I was made aware of, I guess, the impact the shows were having in the UK by Guy Pearce. He came up to film Home and Away. We had the same agent, so he lived in my flat with me while I was filming Home and Away. And I was preparing to go to the UK to do my first pantomime in Leicester. And I said to him, what's it like? Because he'd been there many, many times. And he was the one that told me the kids were wagging school. We call it wagging here, because Neighbours was on in the during school hours. And he described it to me like Beatlemania, which is a kind of a bit of a beat up, but he said it's mad. When you go over there, you just don't realise how the Poms are embracing Home and Away and Neighbours. And he said it is just insane. And of course, when I got there, I was able to see it firsthand. The amount of, the amount of interest in me, like when I came out on stage in the pantomime, you would come out to a 2-second standing ovation and applause. And during that time, I was just really reflecting on what an impact soaps had made, Aussie soaps had made, in your country. And, that 2-minute standing ovation, it wasn't me thinking, oh, wow, they love me. It was me, really being able to self-assess the value that the soaps had brought to you guys. And, of course, when we were filming the show back home, we'd have a lot of tourists from your country come over to Palm Beach where we shoot the beach scenes and just want to hang around and meet all the actors. And it was the same at Pinote Court with Neighbours. So we got to understand pretty quickly how our shows were ingrained in your culture amongst the youth. And then, of course, with tourism, when people came out to our shores or we went to your shores, it just consolidated, what we were hearing and seeing. It was mind-blowing to us. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, the influence on that, again, your Australian soaps had on how dramas were made in the UK and the demographic dramas are pitched to. I mean, the big soaps in the UK at the time, you had Coronation Street, you had Emmerdale Farm, and you'd had EastEnders, which were just beginning. But most of the casts in those were older, middle-aged people. And it seems to be that the Australian soaps were young, new, fresh, aimed at a much younger demographic. And the influence of them really influenced how the UK soaps were made, because suddenly you were seeing younger actors with younger storylines. I think they all thought, this is really interesting. We want a piece of this. So again, really, really influential. And the influence of the 80s, early 90s Australian TV programs probably still exists in the UK today.
Yeah, well, I guess one other observation I'd like to share is, back then we had a lot of magazines. We've probably got our first generation that don't purchase magazines anymore. Everything's online. But in magazines, you would have prints of soap or, there'd be all these polls rating actors against actors in terms of popularity. And in Australia, these magazines would just feature really Aussie guys. And then when we went to the UK, we would see that we were rating up there with the big stars of Hollywood. And to me, that was a sign of how impactful our shows were if we were being viewed in the same vein as the American stars. So I remember seeing one of those, and it may have been Guy that I was talking with and saying, wow, geez, isn't this amazing? Look how our shows are revered over in the UK. It's in terms of pop culture, we've really struck a chord. Yeah. So again, really humbling.
Now, I don't know
Yeah,
whether you've ever looked at yourself online, Matt. If you looked on YouTube for yourself, I mean, I don't know why you would necessarily. I would if I was famous. But anyway. So yeah, when you go through YouTube, there's various things. So let's just have a quick look and run through some of them. So Adam and Nippers in the Speedos, Adam shirtless, Matt and Adam in wetsuits, Adam shirtless, Adam still shirtless in the Fletcher house, Adam in red Speedos, Adam in the bath. So my question to you was, did you know that your wardrobe was going to be quite so sparse?
Yeah, I guess on the first day of filming, I walked in and I had a look at my wardrobe hanging up, and it was a set of Speedos, and I had a chuckle. That was standard commissioned apparel for any young bloke living in Summer Bay. It's yeah, look, I think that's part of the appeal in terms of the sun, the sand, the surf, and a lot of people walking around in next to nothing. It was certainly, when you prepare for a role, there's many factors you got to take into play, but fitness was one of them. Yep, we all had to turn up in pretty good nick. And obviously, my role, I think I was a lifeguard. So it actually, my role sort of commanded that I was looking in reasonable shape. So, yes, it wasn't lost on me that, certainly people walk around in a lot less in Home and Away than they do around Erinsborough, that's for sure.
Now, I just want to pick up, there was one there which I mentioned, which was Adam in the bath, where Bobby walks in. Now, I just want to ask you to reflect on this, because let's be honest, you've had 25 years to do this, a bit of soul searching. I just want to know, do you regret suggesting to Bobby that you should go on that boat ride?
Well, first of all, who doesn't sit in a bathtub in the middle of their living room? I mean, who doesn't do that? And the fact that you brought up Bobby, look, it's still too soon to talk about Bobby. It's still very raw and emotional. I have a running joke that I killed Bobby and I never worked again. So the moral of the story is never kill Bobby. Nikki, Nicole Dixon, or Nicole Bell, as she's now known, wanted to leave the show. So she met a guy, fell in love, madly in love. She's still married to him to this day, and they've got beautiful adult children. So she met James, and she just wanted to leave the industry. She just really wanted to be a mum, and he was a real estate agent, and she became the bookkeeper, and that's what she wanted to do. So, and I was looking for a juicy storyline because I was sick of being the village idiot. So the writers and producers concocted the story that I would kill her in a boating accident. So that's, I guess, the genesis of how that happened. And it was one hell of a storyline that I think still rates as one of the most watchable. I certainly know the fans didn't like it. I got hit over the head by an old lady with her umbrella saying, "You killed Bobby. You're a bad, bad man." And I think back then, because I'm so old, I'm such a fossil, we used to get fan mail, which was fan letters in the mail, right? There's none of this social media. Hit me up on Insta or Facebook. I don't even think bloody mobile phones were around then. So the amount of fan mail I got, hate mail, I actually got a fan mail saying, "You are just such a wanker." And in the fan mail was a dead spider. I'm hoping it was dead when it went in there, like the poor thing didn't suffocate. But look, the fans took her death pretty seriously. I was on many people's shit list there for a long time.
But the good thing is you redeemed yourself, though, didn't you? You saved Sam from the fire.
I saved Sam from the fire, and even though I did redeem myself, I still couldn't hang around the bay. So I picked up my surfboard, and headed on up the coast, only to come back about 10 years later, I think.
Yeah. What was it? It was something to do with was that a burger storyline? Something to do with
the Bonza burger.
Bonza burger, yeah.
Yeah, I was working out in a gym in North Sydney, and the production assistant came in and said, "Matt, how you going?" This is 10 years later. I said, "Good." And then she went back and said, "Oh, geez, Matt's still in good nick. We should maybe get him back on the show. So they got me back on the show for about a 3-month stint, and then they came up with this cheesy Bonzenberger storyline. And John Holmes, who was the series producer then, was so apologetic of the storyline that he offered me a guest role in a show called All Saints, which was a hospital drama. I'm not sure how big it was in the UK, but so there you go. There's some more useless, I guess, tidbits for you.
Never useless. I'm making frantic notes here as we speak. No, I do love my trivia. Well, I'm glad Adam came back, but I'm just thinking about the first time that you were in it, which was 89 to 94 or thereabouts. Yeah, I do feel that time was especially iconic. I mean, the cast that you got: Nicole Dixon, Sharon Hodgson, Adam Willis, Deborah Lawrence, Katie Ritchie, Les Hill, which I think we've got a question, Emily as well. Simmons or Simons? Sorry, forgive me. Simons?
Simons.
Simons. I don't know why I always get that wrong. I mean, essentially, I'd fallen in love with all of them at some point. So yeah, really iconic. On that, do you have Danny Minogue's phone number? No, I'm joking.
I've probably got it somewhere actually, but yeah, a lovely lady, and all those people you mentioned are, they're just awesome people. The culture on the set was amazing, a real family environment. So all those people you mentioned, I've got a real soft spot for. And still catch up with a lot of them today. Yeah.
Well, I mean, off the back of that now, I just wanted to sort of reflect as well, because one of the cast members that I didn't mention, because I knew this was going to come up, was Dieter Brummer, who sadly passed last year. And I know that you were very involved in sort of reuniting the cast, really, and that you're, very much an advocate of men's mental health. So I don't know if you just wanted. I just wanted to ask if it was okay with you to sort of share your thoughts, really, on what happened and his legacy, which I know that you're a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for giving me another opportunity to chat about DEET and then obviously advocate for mental ill health awareness. Yeah, it was just shocking. Just, such a tragedy. I speak with DEET's mum, Dawn, regularly. You've got to look at the silver lining in stuff, as bloody tragic as it is. I mean, mental ill health is the pandemic. It's endemic. It's everywhere. And blokes my age, I'm in my mid-50s particularly, but not exclusive to, but blokes of my demographic aren't real good chatters, aren't real good talking about stuff that's going on. So, when DEET passed, it was a bloody tragedy, and a few of the cast from that time started reaching out on social media. So I started a chat group. A few of us started a chat group, and there was only 3 or 4 of us in it. And then 24 hours later, I think there was over 100 cast and crew in the chat group. That number might be a bit rubbery now, I'm not sure, but there was a lot. And we're all coming together to mourn and just try to make sense of it. And it became pretty clear that we needed to reunite in some way. So a couple of us started, or I facilitated a Zoom where we all got together across 3 continents, and DEET's family came along, and we were just able to share stories, just connect. And that was beautiful. And out of that, one of the many legacies that's left is a lot of us, really want to advocate for mental ill health awareness, talk about it as tough as it is. And just the message is from me is, don't suffer in silence. I had a few issues when I was younger. I suffered in silence, and I didn't navigate trauma well. So, my message is, anyone out there, if you are struggling, then reach out to someone. And it's easier said than done. Reaching out is sometimes the hardest step. But if you do reach out, I know from personal experience, that's when, the healing and the proactive stuff starts. So, we all miss him. We all loved him. I guess the ongoing legacy is absolutely trying to help people. So thanks for the opportunity to chat about him. He was a great fella. He was a rap bag. He was like a little brother, and he was a great practical joker. He he loved having a laugh, had a beautiful smile, beautiful man inside and out, and he's missed dearly and was loved by many. So he was one of the good guys.
And I think that's the thing. It was reported over here on television as well at the time. And I mean, obviously, I don't know much about what Dieter had done in more recent years, really, but I suppose where am I going with that? I suppose really just kind of I've read it somewhere that people that you're meeting, there's people always fighting a battle that you know nothing about, and so we have like our outward, persona, but mental health, is really, really key, really important. No, so thanks ever so much.
Absolutely, it is. You're welcome. So anyone out there struggling, please reach out.
So moving on to something different, if that's okay with you, I'm going to hand over to Ed, because Ed's got a couple of questions there. Because when we come to things like TV shows or films that we review on Bow Tie Sometimes Cool, I will be bit more generic. I'll be like, yeah, I like it. Yeah. Ed will be talking about the film stock and the overall look and the music and so on and so forth. So it felt only right that Ed would ask some questions to do with production and things that you've been involved with, since Home and Away. So Ed, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ash. Yeah, Matt. So I think I'm right in saying that you formed a production company with your fellow Home and Away cast member, Les Hill. Can you tell our listeners anything about that, and perhaps how you decided to go from being in front of the cameras to behind the cameras?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So the industry is very transient in terms of employment. If you're not working full-time on a soap, you're going from job to job. People like Emily Simons, Lynn McGranger, Ray Marr, Kate Ritchie, who have been on Home and Away for all those years, that's a real steady form of employment. But you really need to diversify, because you might go from guest role to guest role, and really it's very spasmodic, the work. So we started a production company because we made a short film for a film festival. The short film was called The Score, and that did really well. And from there, we made a couple of commercials and a few other short films. So I think we were running the production company for about 12 months. And then I had to make a life decision, a life change. I had to move from Sydney back to Melbourne, where I started my family. So we had to dissolve the production company. Les stayed in production for an extended period of time, and Les has done some great work in front of the camera too. Most recently, he was in the first Underbelly series. I'm not sure whether the Underbelly was well received over there, but it was a series about the gangland wars in Melbourne. Les is still actively involved behind the camera, as am I, but we don't work together. We actually haven't seen each other for a little while. I'm due to go up to Sydney to hang out with him. He's a good man, a good buddy. He's probably one of my closest pals from the show.
Again, you've been a producer of the film A Small Punch in a Little Town. We've seen the trailer of it, but can you tell us a bit more about it so our listeners can get a flavour of what it's about?
Sure, absolutely. So I got together with 4 other guys and we produced this film. We all threw a little bit of money in each, and then we went down to a place called Lakes Entrance, which is in Gippsland in Victoria. And we shot the film in 2 weeks. And it's a 90-minute film. So it's a feature-length film. It won a couple of awards in the States, and we're looking for distribution or acquisition rights now. We shot it on a $2,000 camera, and it was pretty much a guerrilla shoot. A guerrilla shoot means that there's no permits. There was a crew of less than 10 people, which means you're not required, you don't have to have permits. So a real shoestring budget. And the film, A Small Punch in a Little Town, focuses on the coward punch issue that we have in this country, and it may be pertinent to your country as well, where we're getting young men and not exclusive to, but the majority of young men are assaulting other men and they're dying with one punch. They get punched and their head hits the concrete or something, and it ends up in a fatality. So the film addresses that, and it's set in a small town where the guy who plays my son punches someone on the beach, and he ends up passing away, and it's the ramifications of that death on the small town. So it's quite topical, and the film's done quite well. It's excuse me. It's been well received. It's a real, I think, effort to make a feature film. To first of all write one, then produce it, and then to enter it into film festivals. I'm working on another film now called Last Stand, and I'm hoping to get a much bigger budget off the back of Small Punch in a Little Town, and make this film on a larger scale. This film's about a bunch of gambling addicts from GA who push a billy cart from Sydney to Ayers Rock to raise money for a dying child. And in the process, they pull off one of the greatest betting stings of all time. So it's a character-driven piece with a whole lot of oddballs coming together for a common cause. And in the end, in their pursuit of raising money, they kind of work out who they are and get their lives back on track. So it's, that's the latest project that I'm working on. So hopefully I'll get some funding for that, and around we go again.
Excellent. So you produce and write. Do you direct at all?
Yeah, I've directed a couple of short films. My wife and I produced and I directed a short film called Candy for My Baby. You can see that on YouTube. I had someone else assist me with the direction as well on that. But I'm really interested in, I guess, controlling my own destiny in a sense, where I've written a novel as well that I'm looking at publishing, and I think the reason why a lot of actors do this stuff is because it's what's in our sphere of influence. We can create our own opportunities, and I think in the industry, unless you are on a long-term soap for an extended period of time, sitting back waiting for the phone to ring is not a good business decision. You've really got to either break down doors or create your own work. So it stems from that, but it also stems from, actors just love being creative. So, I like creating, whether it's short stories or writing novels, short films, feature films. I just love being creative.
That's brilliant, Matt. Thank you.
We will watch those. Actually, you stole some of our questions there, Matt. We were going to ask you about The Last Stand, but you covered it off very nicely, so thank you ever so much.
Beautiful.
Now, one of the things I just wanted to sort of cover off as well with you, if I could, it'd be wrong of us not to chat about this, is to touch on your daughter's journey. So for our listeners who don't know, your daughter is a social media influencer and LGBTQ activist, Grace Hyland, who is also trans. And if you don't mind, I just wanted to take an opportunity and hope that you wouldn't mind sharing your journey. Well, obviously Grace's journey as well, but your journey as a parent or someone finding themselves and embarking on that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. I advocate not only for mental ill health awareness, but also advocate for diversity as a result of my daughter's courage. Look, I often say, I've got two beautiful daughters, Grace and Maddie. They're both courageous in their own ways. Speaking of Grace, Grace came to us when she was 10 or 11 and said that she felt like she was trapped in the wrong body. She spoke to my wife about it, her stepmom, and said, look, I need support. And that really started the journey of Grace's transition. She's been so courageous. I often say I've had a front row seat to one of the most courageous things I've ever seen. Watching a young person try to run towards authenticity, particularly at a time when there's a lot of hurdles, either process or people. It's been really humbling. I mean, she's been so courageous, and now she's my beautiful 22-year-old daughter, and she advocates a lot in that space. She has an big online following, and she really helps other adolescents with gender dysphoria navigate their path. And I speak to a lot of parents, and look, it's bloody tough. It's not an easy gig, and a lot of parents find it really tough. But there is a distinct correlation between lack of support and self-harm amongst our brave adolescents, our brave gender dysphoria adolescents. So I just, I remember when my daughter said, "Dad, I'm not going through male puberty. It's not going to happen. It's not an option." I remember just thinking to myself, well, I don't want my daughter to be one of those statistics. It's not going to happen through lack of support. So, I mean, after that conversation, I was all in. And, she had that conversation with me when she was 11, and it wasn't a naive, immature 11-year-old saying, "I'm not going through male puberty." It was a really considered conversation from someone who has just never felt like they've fitted in at all. So with all that reflection, comes a maturity that belies the years. And it was her that really drove it through her courage. And then for me, I mean, I helped Grace remove some blockers, either process or people. But for me, the real stars of the show is Grace's, the women in Grace's life. She's got a lot of strong women around her. Her sister Maddie, her grandma, her mum, her stepmum, her nans, a lot of really strong women around her. So, it's not just Grace's journey; it's everyone's journey. And I'm really glad that, that I've been able to play a role in watching my daughter run towards authenticity and happiness. So I would say to anyone who's listening to this who may be, struggling with identity, I would say that you're not alone. You are just not alone. Start by seeing your GP as a first source of support, and go to another GP if you need to. But I just want to say that I think you're brave, you're absolutely courageous, and don't ever feel like you're alone, because I think you're awesome. And I say that. I advocate in that space because it is so crucial. Support is so crucial. So yeah, it's been a good journey, boys. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you ever so much for sharing that, because it is a big thing, and I think it's something that society perhaps I don't want to say it doesn't understand, but unless you're in that situation, I suppose it is hard to sometimes sort of think it through. And I watched that. There was an interview which you did, which was an example of a parent doing the right thing, and very inspiring. Very inspiring. We'll put a link in here. No, thank you for sharing. Thank you.
Thanks, fellas. Look, I'm not, and it's not really about me trying to position myself as one of life's moral barometers, because it's a really tough thing, right? And I've spoken to parents, who are deeply religious, and there's ideologies colliding there. I mean, it's a tough gig, but at the core of it are really brave adolescents who are just trying to navigate their authenticity. So I take my hat off. I take my hat off to them. It's courage on another level.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Matt, we've talked a lot about your work. So what does Mat Stevenson, the person, do in his own time?
Good question. Yeah, I'm a bit of a one-man wolf pack. I've got a lot of mates, but I don't know whether I'm just getting old and grumpy, but I love spending time with my family, my wife, and my two daughters. I'm really into my gardening at the moment. I've just built a really big veggie garden with my wife, and we've planted some fruit trees. So I love spending some time in the garden. I love getting out on the water. I've got a kayak and I fish from my kayak. So when the weather's right, I'll I'll often hit the bay down in Melbourne and fish from my kayak, or even if it's a bit rough, I'll just take my kayak out just to get on the water. Water seems to be really soothing. I spent a fair bit of time riding, and I'm affiliated with a local cricket team, the Langwarrin cricket team here. So I try to pretend I can play cricket, but I'm probably I probably think I'm better than what I actually am. Really, I just love getting around. That's my male boy time, where I just get together with the boys and have a few beers. So that's about it, really. I like keeping pretty active as well. I still keep reasonably fit because it's good for my mental health. I find, when I have a good workout, it just clears the mind. So I'm still pretty active. So that's about it, I think.
Fantastic. Well, Matt, I think that covered off pretty much everything that we wanted to chat with you about. And Ed and I just wanted to thank you so much for agreeing to come and do this, really, because I know when we messaged you, I think I said with a little laughing emoji that we got 12 subscribers, to which your response was, well, actually now you've got 16, because obviously you'd had a look at our channel. And, you're just such a positive chap. And I can't thank you enough for giving us your time, really. You've been thoroughly great with us, top man. Thank you ever so much for everything. We're really looking forward to your future ventures in The Last Stand. We'll be watching that.
Thanks, boys. Well, I love what you're doing. I had a listen to a few of your podcasts, and so it's great. I'm always happy to support.
Well, that is very kind of you to say so. I'm glad that we've got a listener in you. Thank you very much. Listen, guys, we have been Both Highs Are Sometimes Cool. It's goodbye from myself, Ashley. Goodbye from Ed.
Goodbye.
And I think it's goodbye from Matt as well.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on.
You're welcome. Bye for now.